Hello, my friends, and welcome. Welcome to week 4 of our April Poetry Celebration. It's just been such a joy so far, and I'm glad to say we have another week. Thank you all so much for your comments, especially for your poems, for your letters. I love being in touch with you, and I feel the momentum of creativity and connection and community that we're creating together, and it's beautiful. So thank you for all of that. As ever, this week I received a beautiful, abundant bouquet of poems that I love, and so many themes are running through them. So you'll remember our spark last week was to write a poem that witnesses an act of love. We have some of those that are absolutely beautiful. Also, the dare was to write a haiku and leave it for people in a public place, and more on that delight. The love of spring is running through these poems. Just the love of love, the awareness of love. There's so much. There's so many themes and kind of motifs that we're all picking up on. Even what I sort of said offhandedly about maybe you'd like to write a poem remembering the first book of poetry you ever had, and that brought some treasures to light. So there's so much, and I think what I really want to underline for myself and all of us is that inspiration truly is everywhere. There is no shortage of inspiration, of things to write about, things to dive deep into, things to remember, things to enjoy, things to ask questions about. There's so much. So without further ado, I wanted to begin today with a beautiful poem by Tony. This is called Poetry is Life, and I thought it would just set us off in the most wonderful way. Poetry is life. Some days are sweeter than others. Some days just suck. A day of mourning of the past you thought you knew. Birds will chirp, birds will feed their young as each new day begins. A new beginning. Shoulders back, chin up. Poetry is life. Yes to all of that. And again, I think there is a link here to Skia's poem from a few weeks ago that sort of was inclusive about some of the complexities of love. And here we have also the acknowledgement that some days are just hard and that we mourn, but also shoulders up, shoulders back, chin up. Poetry is life. Thank you, Tony. A new friend of mine, Anjum, has written a beautiful sequence of poems about trees, and I chose this one. I know that many of us here are lovers of trees, and in fact, I think it was 2 years ago, we had trees were one of our major themes. So Anjum, you're right on time, and we're so happy to have your poem. So she was writing in the sequence about the importance of trees and the feeling of connection she has with trees. She writes, I know this as true. For this year, I have not been able to be with one we planted just outside our small cottage. I have not been able to stand close to touch it, smile at it, feel its leaves, or remove the extra twigs that grow just like that, because I was ill and on doctor's orders rest. Only a few flowers bloomed, perhaps to tell me that it is there for me. No more blossoms have appeared. I know they are waiting for me to climb the stairs, step on the terrace and console them, to speak, to comfort and smile. I have missed the communication with nature, as nature seems to have missed me. Oh, dear people, see the truth in trees, flowers, rain, clouds, and birds, who hold their wings as they fly high with the unseen breeze, and then, with a message, return to the trees. I just loved that part. Oh, dear people, see the truth in trees, flowers, rain, clouds, and birds, who hold their wings as they fly high with the unseen breeze, and then, with a message, return to the trees. All of that connection back to Tony's Poetry is Life. Anne gives us a poem also to stir us up, and it's called Call to Adventure. Take your fiddle bow as you would Ariadne's thread. Let it be your security as you journey the twists and turns that lay before you, so that you can always find your way home. You are the explorer, the designer, the hidden monster, and the labyrinth itself, the still point from which you come and to which you return. Find courage for your quest with the poems, stories, and songs of those who came before, and always listen to your dreams. Yes, I really love also in that one the acknowledgement that we are all of it at the same time. You know, we are the adventurer, the explorer, and the monster, and the labyrinth, and we're making the story, this adventure as we go. My darling niece, Caitlin, wrote this just joyful, loving moment. The bubbling laughter of a child in a puffy marshmallow coat cuts through any horrendous hoopla as you relish in its warm melody. It's a ripple of love in a train whose noises can easily rattle your inside thoughts. It's a sound that surely other animals would have to admire. Something that floats on bubblegum-flavored sound waves and sticks merrily to needy ears that perk up to such innocence, such easy music. Such a beautiful reminder of what is there to take in and to be buoyed up by. I love that, right? Cuts through any horrendous hoopla. Again, tuning the radio station and saying, I want to listen to that wonderful child who's having a great time. So great. Thank you for that, Caitlin. The poems that I read last week, 2 father poems, which were such loving poems, inspired such beautiful poems, and I want to read them. The first is by my friend Tricia. It's just called Father. I did not see him show love often. I saw him come in from work, pour a can of beer into the glass, and sit at the kitchen table waiting for dinner. But sometimes, after my mother had washed my hair, I would sit on the floor in front of his chair as he watched TV, and he would take the towel and rough dry my hair until his arms grew tired. I think this said, I love you. Oh, Tricia, that is a beauty. That is on every sense, poetically and emotionally, with understanding and courage and love. And also I just want to call attention to the turn in that poem, but sometimes. So we have sort of like the first part, which shows us in such a concise and economical way a portrait. We don't really need more to understand something essential about this father. And then we have this turn, and that's something I think we can all play with in our poems, but sometimes, or but, just but, and then whatever comes after that. And it doesn't refute all that comes before it. It doesn't say, oh, he was a jolly, loving father. It says, but this too. And I think that's really powerful. It's a really powerful act of poetry and understanding to come to that. Another absolutely beautiful poem by another of my dear friends, Tricia, is this one. It's called Witness. And she gives actually a little excerpt from Can't Help Falling in Love with You by Elvis Presley at the beginning of this poem. It says, some things are meant to be. Take my hand, take my whole life too, for I can't help falling in love with you. He rose early every morning, making coffee for Mama and a pot of oatmeal for my brothers and me, humming softly or cooing words or admonishing me to eat my breakfast before getting on the school bus. Then he'd take a bowl of gruel into Charlie's bedroom, change him into dry day clothes, and lift him into the recliner from his hospital bed and feed him before heading off to work at the factory, all before 7 in the morning. At the end of his long days, he'd shower at work to avoid bringing germs into the house, then return home and help ready Charlie for bed and feed him his supper, reversing their morning routine. He listened to the spooling stories of our days as we sat eating and chatting around the kitchen table, telling jokes, his eyes smiling. By 9:30, he was shooing us upstairs to bed. By 10 o'clock, he was asleep in his own living room easy chair. How he loved his children, none more than the other. How we all loved him. How we all love him. Oh, that's just glows. So beautiful. So on the tail of that love, Miriam gives us a poem of self-love, and I just love this. It's called I Love Me. Sleeping in once a week, taking myself on a walk, forbidding even a peek at notifications that squawk. Eating fruits and veggies, even peas, preparing meals with love, sharing the delicious recipes, and about the horrid ones, I laugh. Choosing my focus with care, molding my life like clay. Practice receiving and how to share every minute of every day. Head to toe, inside out, I love me. There is no one else I want to be. Hooray, Miriam. So great. And I love all of that, and even the notifications that squawk. So great. Now, the dare about sharing haikus, so much good came from this. So much good. Dee gives us a haiku that she actually wanted to share with us, which I just loved that. She writes, this is her haiku. I share my haiku with Kate Chadbourne's poem group, with love for all, too. Dee, that's marvelous. And then as a final blessing, as she was just signing her letter off, she wrote this, and I loved it. Let the poetry flow, such a refreshing hope in this interesting world. Dee, thank you for that. Thank you for that. I feel the love and the goodness in it. Again, one of the Trish's, I hope this is all right to share, but it really touched me. She wrote, after watching your inspirational video Tuesday night, I thought about a haiku about what I could do with one. Then I remembered that I had an appointment for a mammogram on Thursday. I thought about the women who helped women through this procedure and decided I would write a haiku for this woman, unknown to me, whom I would meet in 2 days. My mammographer was a young woman who was especially kind and attentive. After I had dressed, she came into the cubicle to walk me out. I asked if she could spare 5 minutes for me, and at first she looked at me quite concerned, but as soon as I said, this is National Poetry Month, she relaxed and said, I love poetry. Hooray! There's more of us out there. I explained about our group and heaped great praise on our mentor and muse, which was very nice. I told her about the dare, which brought me to the poem, which I read to her. I gave her the card on which I had written the poem, in cursive, of course, and she held it in both hands against her heart, closed her eyes for a few seconds, then asked for a hug, which I might have asked for if she hadn't. We hugged, she talked about her job, about how some days everyone is frazzled, about how some people are leaving the profession. I said something like, look at you, a woman helping women, a great thing. In the hallway, she asked for another hug. Really, I could have cried. She held the poem again and said that she would keep it and share it. I told her I hope to see her again next year. Her name is Nicole. Here is the haiku. When your light seems dimmed, remember that on this day you cared for someone. Oh, Tricia. When your light seems dimmed, remember that on this day you cared for someone. That is a beauty. And, you know, I think most of us could benefit from the message of that haiku, because I can guarantee everyone in this poetry community has cared for someone today. And it's important that we remember that. Thank you, Tricia. My friend Kathleen is planning to share a haiku out of the house at some stage, but she shared with me two wonderful things. One was a poem about helping skunks get free when they've put their noses into glass jars. You can imagine. And I just wanted to share one little piece of that. She says, caring gestures of love sustain us when misfortune takes us low. Let's garner hope for future kindness, both gladly given and received. Such grace in that. And then her haiku, I love, is just reassuring. It says, how the rain holds life, warmed by and nourishing like the enduring light. How the rain holds life, warmed by and nourishing like the enduring light. Also, another great thing we can take from that poem is I love how the rain holds life. I love how it's another way to get into a poetic statement that leaves there's a lot of room there. And again, we talked a few weeks ago about bivalence and ambivalence, and when a thing could be read in a couple of different ways, how lets us read it in a couple of ways. It's just something to take in. Skia wrote also about the excitement about creating these haikus. She created a number, and I want to share them with you. And she said that she wants to decide that I must trust the universe to take a hand and making sure that the right poem is found by the right reader. And then she says, it's been a glorious week of haiku writing. Hooray, Skia. Here are a few, she said, that I thought might be enjoyed by our group. This is the thank you that someone forgot to say. Your kindness matters. Oh, yes. Again, that one, I really think everyone in the world would benefit from that haiku. This is the thank you that someone forgot to say. Your kindness matters. Second haiku. May this bring solace, comfort when you feel unseen. Shine on, bright spirit. May this bring solace, comfort when you feel unseen. Shine on, bright spirit. Yes, yes, yes. And finally, you amazing you. Imagination's heartbeat echoes clear and true. Skia, those are magnificent. They just blaze with love. Thank you. Thank you, everybody who sent your haikus, and thank you for taking me up on that dare. I'm so pleased. Finally, out of our community, I just want to read this poem by my friend Mike because I just found it delightful. It really is not on our theme at all, but I couldn't not include it. It's called Captain Hanson Crockett Gregory. Captain Hanson Crockett Gregory is the subject of this allegory. Buried in Quincy, that's the end of his story, but the middle of his tale was filled with glory. Born 1832 in Camden, Maine, the rolling ocean was his domain. As a ship's cook, he found his fame when he took some time to use his brain. Lard was used to fry dough, but the outside would cook and the middle would not. A hole of dough from the middle he cut, and thus he invented the dough nut. Mike, brilliant and fun. I rely on Mike to give me a dose of laughter every week. I love that. Now, every week in the Portland Press Herald, there's a poetry column, and I'm very lucky. My mother often, in our weekly call, reads me the poem. And you know, one thing that's really great, we both love the poems, we both agree on poems we love. And when she read this poem to me yesterday, I said, oh, would you please take a picture and send it to me, because it's perfect for our theme. So again, our theme, or our spark last week of witnessing an act of love, this poem is that, an act of love. It's called What You Do by Karam Durdag, Durdag, and I'll put a note on this in the comment below this video. but I just loved it. And I also, again, I just want to say how special it is to share poems with people you love and feel them together, enjoy them together, admire them together. That's a great thing. So thank you, Mama, for this poem. What You Do by Karam Durdag. What do you do when your sister wants to divorce her husband and she is all the way in Australia, all alone by herself, looking at this long ridge of being a single parent to an 18-month-old light? You'll hold her hand as best as you can on WhatsApp. You tell her you will love her no matter what. You will make her believe she will always have you by her side. On this day, all the promises you never made arise from the warm earth, together with the tulips grafting onto your spine. As she cries, as she cries, as she cries, and oh, how tired she is. This war, but the only answer is love. Yes. And finally, on this theme, I also wrote a poem, and I wanted to share it with you. And here it is again, another messy draft, which I love. Again, I'm thank you, Jumping Fox Design. I love this notebook. It really is the best notebook I've ever had. I love the texture of it. The paper is exquisite. It's a beautiful notebook. And again, some of you are going to be so lucky and receive one as a prize, which I'm excited for you to have, and just fill it up. Fill it up. Write messy, write all over it, write notes, inspire yourself. As I always say, that's one of my studio rules, is use it up, play with it. So here's my poem, also on the theme or the spark of witnessing an act of love. It's called Snapper. Slightly bow-legged, burdened, as though saddled with a sloshing tureen of scalding soup, and warned not to spill a drop, not one single drop, the man ferries across the ancient and furious snapper, the way we were taught long ago to pick up a record only by its edges. Taking care not to drop the dangerous and alien being, he has stopped traffic and all personal plans for the day to protect. A disgruntled silence as it slips into the stream that had called it to venture into danger. Sometimes, to be true, we must carry what will never look back at us with thanks before it disappears into the dark current. This is the love that shapes and safeguards the world. Even years later, anyone passing the spot detects in the air the lasting shimmer of that kindness and feels less afraid and more at home. So much fun. It's so fun writing poems, and it's so fun. This theme is very special, I must say. I'm really grateful that we have been spending this month thinking about love. Just like inspiration, as we talked about at the beginning, it's everywhere. So I want to, again, show you Dana's book. There are a lot of books that teach us about thinking, but this to me is a book I return to again and again. Train Your Brain. I hope you'll check it out. I think it's really powerful. Reminds us really what we're doing, my friends, as we write these poems this month. We are training our brains to look for love. So there's a great, a kind of a rhyme between what we're doing and what Dana is doing. So again, thank you, Dana Wilde, with all my heart for supporting this poetry celebration. And I feel your encouragement and also your reminder of how powerful our focus is. And that's what we're doing as poets. So great. Well, this week I want to bring you into two books. I told you that I've been rereading every book of poems by Seamus Heaney, and this one, The Spirit Level. And let just here's Seamus. That's a great picture of Seamus. I knew him when he was about that age. Not that I don't want to overstate. I met him on a couple of occasions and he shook my hand. He would never have known me, but I was overjoyed because he really is one of my heroes. So I want to read 2 poems today that guide us to look for renewal in 2 different ways. That poetry and love bring us to renewal. I also wanted to say, we talked about first books of poems, and I think I read this book when it came out, and you can see that I've put in book darts all through this book. Just lines that I loved, whole poems that I loved and wanted to remember. Anyway, it actually is a sort of reuniting with myself to see again, like, what moved my heart so much, what moved my mind so much the first time I read this book. And not surprisingly, the poem I'm about to read to you has a book dart. So that's another thing I think that's really fun. As I've gotten older, I have allowed myself to mark my books. I just do. I really, this is quite mild, but now I actually write in my books and really make them my own, sort of study them, which when I was younger, I would never have done. But now I love it. I feel like my books are such teachers. So this is a poem by Seamus Heaney called Postscript, and it's a beloved poem. You might well have heard it, but you can't hear it too many times. Postscript. And sometime, make the time to drive out west into County Clare, along the flaggy shore, in September or October, when the wind and the light are working off each other, so that the ocean on one side is wild with foam and glitter, and inland, among stones, the surface of a slate-grey lake is lit by the earthed lightning of a flock of swans. Their feathers ruffed and ruffling, white on white, their fully grown, headstrong-looking heads, tucked or cresting or busy underwater. Useless to think you'll park and capture it more thoroughly. You are neither here nor there, a hurry through which known and strange things pass, as big, soft buffetings come at the car sideways and catch the heart off guard and blow it open. Yes, you can feel the love of that landscape, the love of the world, the love of the swans, the lake, the sea, the stones, the light, the wind, and it's a moment of renewal. It's a moment of opening to love again. So gorgeous. Now, another poem. Here is the collected poems of Stanley Kunitz. Marvelous poet. So many of Stanley's poems. Stanley, I think, really was a poet of love. And I'm actually starting to wonder if maybe all poems are love poems. What do you think? But this is definitely a love poem. And it's also on this theme of renewal and in a different angle. And it's called Touch Me. Summer is late, my heart. Words plucked out of the air some 40 years ago when I was wild with love and torn almost in two. Scatter like leaves this night of whistling wind and rain. It is my heart that's late. It is my song that's flown. Outdoors all afternoon, under a gunmetal sky, staking my garden down, I kneeled to the crickets trilling underfoot, as if about to burst from their crusty shells, and like a child again, marveled to hear so clear and brave a music pour from such a small machine. What makes the engine go? Desire, desire, desire. The longing for the dance stirs in the buried life. One season only, and it's done. So let the battered old willow thrash against the window panes and the house timbers creak. Darling, Do you remember the man you married? Touch me, remind me who I am. That's so glorious. World love, understanding, and love, and a sense of desire and connection, and asking for that connection again, and recognizing the renewal of life through desire, through poetry, through the garden. There's just to say, if some of you might love to read, Stanley has a beautiful poem, a beautiful book of poems called The Wild Braid, which are poems that are rooted in his gardening. He was a passionate, lifelong gardener. And that poem also has wonderful photographs. That book of poems has wonderful photographs. So you cannot go wrong, Stanley Kunitz and Seamus Heaney. So my spark for you is, if you like, write a poem in which love itself sparks renewal. However you want to come to that, however you want to take it. So a poem of love and renewal. See where you go with that. Now, a dare. You'll see what you think about this dare. Miriam's poem, I Love Me, I think is a really good dare. I want to just suggest, as a dare, I dare you, I dare me, to write a love poem to ourselves. That does feel daring. And I want to take a leaf out of Miriam's book because I think it's powerful. Thank you, Miriam. Again, you don't have to share it with me, or you can, whatever you like. Okay, so if you'd like to, send poems by the 26th of April, which is Friday night, 5 p.m. And again, thank you all for putting your poems right in the body of the email. That's been a great help. The next video, our final video for week 5, will come out next Monday, on Monday the 29th, and I will reveal the prize winners at that time. So we've got our spark, we've got our dare. Again, thank you everybody who's been commenting, who's been liking the videos. Honestly, it really does help me because this is a community that we're building, and it helps me to feel like we're in it together. I love this. I love what we're doing, and I really appreciate the encouragement. I appreciate so much the likes and the comments and the subscribes. And, also, if you want to share this, even at this point, with another person you think sort of is like us, I hope you will. We're kind of a small and self-selecting gang. I was so pleased a couple of you wrote that this is one of the best places to be. Kathleen, among others, wrote that it was one of the best hangouts, and I love that. So bring in the people that you think kind of will be like us, kind and creative people. That's, I think, how we are. And also just to say, if you've been watching these videos and have yet to write a poem or share a poem, just to know that you are so welcome. It's not too late. Even when the month is over, it's not too late. But, if you send me a poem, you'll also have a chance to win a prize. And we'd love to have your voice represented in this celebration. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for all that you're doing. I'm enjoying this time with you so much. So I'm wishing you a wonderful week of reading poems and writing poems and celebrating poems. And I'll see you next week. Bye for now.